Most people think they are weak. They think they have no discipline. They think something is wrong with them. But the reality is that you're not weak. You're just untrained. And you are living inside of a system that was designed to break you before you even had the chance to build yourself. A system that keeps you distracted, unfocused, spiritually empty. A system that makes it almost impossible to learn your religion, to earn halal money, or to live with real clarity and purpose. And the problem is, it's not you. The problem is the systems you have never learned. I'm 31 years old right now. And when I look back at what Allah allowed me to accomplish, it doesn't even feel real. When I was 18, I went to ask for the hand of a woman. Her family looked at me and said, you dropped out of school at 16. You have no career, no money, no plan. And now you want to go to Egypt to seek knowledge. How are you going to take care of her?
What are you going to, are you going to Egypt? What are you going to do after work or what?
We're going to study. We're going to try to study to get this in for Allah. And inshallah, as we see, inshallah.
And wallahi, at that moment, I only knew with certainty that if I prioritized knowledge in my life, Allah would later on take care of myself. And that is exactly what happened. I went to Egypt, learned Arabic from zero. I memorized more than half of the Qur'an. I graduated from Al-Azhar Institute. I completed 2 years of Sharia faculty. And then I built $1 million business. And today I live a lifestyle that I am pleased with. I used to dream of this lifestyle, a lifestyle that allows me to seek knowledge, earn halal, a lifestyle that I can design my day to day to make sure that my heart stays connected with Allah Azza wa Jal. But none of that happened because I'm special or not because I'm naturally disciplined. It happened because I spent 13 years building a system, a protocol through failure after failure after failure. And if I had this system when I was 18, it wouldn't have taken me 13 years. And that's why I record this video. This is not motivation. It's not a reminder. These 13 years of compressed knowledge, experience, and Islamic principles in a detailed blueprint. A detailed blueprint that you can start applying today. And if you take it seriously, if you watch this video until the end and apply the principles I teach you here, you are going to be able, inshallah, to become the Muslim you was destined to be. If you're watching this before the 27th of December 2025, know that on the 27th, we are going to be live in the live reset event. I'm going to work with you guys through this workbook, the complete life planning workbook, and we are going to set all of these together so you don't go into the next year wasting time. If you are serious about growth, this might be the turning point you needed to finally become it. So Bismillah, let's begin. Chapter 1, the importance of knowledge and how honorable knowledge, whether it's learning it, whether it's teaching it, and making it part of your life is. And for this particular chapter, it deserves for me to wear my best clothes. It deserves for me to have wudu. And it deserves for me to put on the best perfume that I have, which, by the way, this was given to me in our tour in Australia by a brother. MashaAllah, very good perfume. The point is, knowledge needs to be respected to this level. And knowledge, as Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, said, is قال Allah, wa qala al-Rasul, wa qala al-Sahaba. Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said, and the Sahaba said. This is what we mean by knowledge when we talk in this context. And before we even get to the quotes, you need to understand something very simple, which is knowledge is not optional. Knowledge is not nice to have. Knowledge is wajib, is an obligation. Before anything you do in life, before you try to make money, you need to know if that is halal. Before you build a family, you need knowledge. Before you even try to worship Allah, you need knowledge. You need to know if your income is halal, haram. You need to know if it's permissible or impermissible. You need to know how to eat, how to sleep, how to breathe. Anything you do in this life, you need to do it based on knowledge, based on a dalil, based on an ayah of the Qur'an, or based on a hadith. The Muslim doesn't do anything related to his deen, to his religion, except that it's built upon a dalil, an evidence of the Qur'an or the Sunnah. So once you have the adillah, you have knowledge, you know how to treat your parents, you know how to treat your spouse, etc., etc. Every single thing in life has a ruling. And without knowledge, you are just guessing. And guessing in religion is literally destruction. That's why the religion is actually very simple. Allah says in the Qur'an, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أُولَئِكَ هُمْ شَرُّ الْبَرِيَّةِ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ أُولَئِكَ هُمْ خَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ جزاؤهم عند ربهم جنات عدن تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. So Allah very clearly here says that those who have disbelieved, they are going to have Jahannam. Those who have believed and those who did righteous deeds and were amongst the believers, they are the best of creation and their reward will be Jannah and will be paradise. So Allah already explained the objective. Obey Allah and His Messenger, you get Jannah. You disobey them, you get Jahannam. It's that simple. And this is the lens through which every Muslim should operate. Now the reality is Allah already told us who are the best of people walking on this earth. Allah says in the Qur'an, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء, that only those who truly fear Allah Azza wa Jal are the scholars. And obviously a scholar, what does he has that any other person doesn't have in difference to him? Is the knowledge. So the knowledge is what makes you different in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. Is the knowledge that makes you or makes Allah Azza wa Jal say about you that you are truly the one who truly fears Him. Which means that the rest of the people, they fear Allah Azza wa Jal, but not to the level of the scholar. Because the scholar has so much knowledge about Allah Azza wa Jal. And with so much knowledge, the more knowledge you have about Allah Azza wa Jal, the more fear, the more khushu', the more humbleness of Allah Azza wa Jal you gain. And then likewise Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Qur'an, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ, that Allah raises those amongst you who believe and those who have been given knowledge by many degrees. Allah elevates those who have knowledge, even a little bit of it, in ranks. So Allah Azza wa Jal elevates those who have knowledge. Even if they have a little bit, they elevate them, or He elevates them in ranks. And you can see this in real life. You watch Muslim content online and sometimes you immediately can feel that a person is truly a student or a person have never studied. But maybe the person has some charisma and he has gained some following and now he has to keep up with it. But many people, you can tell they are just quoting from quotes they have just read online. He's doing what we call naqal, copy and repeat. But the knowledge is not inside of him. He's not speaking from experience. Then you listen to someone who actually sought knowledge, someone who sat with the scholars, someone who revised, memorized, revealed, struggled, and straight away you feel the difference. You feel that that person is speaking from experience. You feel the wisdom. One person is reciting lines, the other is speaking from a light that Allah Azza wa Jal has placed in his heart. This is why there will always be a difference in between the scholar, a student of knowledge, a speaker, and a content creator who repeats quotes he found online. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man yuridillahu bi khayran yufaqihu fid din." That whomever Allah wants good for him, He grants him deep understanding of al-Islam. If Allah wants good for someone, He gives them the understanding of the religion. That's the best thing you can have as a human being or as a Muslim. But then the natural question is, so how do I even know if Allah is actually wanting that good for me? And how will I know if He wants to give me that good or if He is giving me that good? So Allah Azza wa Jalla says in another ayah, يَعْلَمِ اللَّهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ خَيْرًا يُؤْتِكُمْ خَيْرًا, that if Allah knows any good in your hearts, He will give you good. So the whole point is that Allah Azza wa Jal, as the Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, Allah looks at your hearts, not at what you wear or how strong you are or whatever you might be from the outward, but rather He looks at your heart. How sincere are you? How sincere are you being with yourself? And the early scholars understood this deeply. Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ أفضل من صلاة النافلة. That seeking knowledge is better than praying a voluntary prayer. Likewise, Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, من أراد الدنيا فعليه بالعلم ومن أراد الآخرة فعليه بالعلم. That whoever wants this world, let him seek knowledge. And whoever wants the hereafter, let him seek knowledge as well. Likewise, the very known hadith that every time I read, it literally shakes my heart and it reminds me of the importance of knowledge. As it was reported in Sunan ibn Majah and Abi Hurairah رضي الله عنه يقول سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول الدنيا ملعونة ملعون ما فيها إلا ذكر الله وما ولا أو عالم أو متعلم. That the whole world is cursed and everything in it is cursed except the remembrance of Allah and whatever is connected to it, and a scholar or a student of knowledge. And this was classified as sahih by scholars like Al-Imam Al-Albani. Abu Muslim Al-Khawlani, he said مثل العلماء في الأرض مثل أو مثل النجوم في السماء إذا برزت للناس اهتدوا بها وإذا خفيت عنهم تحيروا. That the example of scholars on earth is the example of stars in the sky. When they appear, people are guided by them. And when they disappear, people become confused. And this is what we have nowadays. There's so many speakers online that a lot of people are confused. And those who have a little bit of knowledge, they are ashamed of even speaking, as it is the case for myself, to be honest. I feel like I have just tasted it, or opened the door to know, okay, that's what I need to get. But I never actually really started. So when I speak about Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet, my heart feels uncomfortable because I have never truly go from A to Z, but rather my situation is just information. And what I'm doing right now is naqal. I take quotes and I pass it on to you. And so the reason why I'm saying this and I'm being real with you is because you need to make the differentiation and the difference, as we said earlier, in between a scholar, a student of knowledge, a naqal, somebody who copy and paste, somebody who copies, reads, pass it on to you. Might have the tool to do it, the Arabic language, and pass it on to you. And then there's content creators who might not even necessarily actually understand the text itself, the Arabic text, but rather they just read the translation and pass it on to you in a charismatic way. So the religion, as it was reported by different big personalities of the Salaf, like Imam Malik, for example, they said knowledge is religion. So be careful and pay attention who you take your religion from. If the person who's doing this naqal is not following the concepts and principles of, the respect of not knowing, being comfortable saying, I don't know, being comfortable knowing his place, being comfortable being quiet if he's just doubtful about something. And he applies the principle, كَثَى بِالشَّكِّ جَهْلًا. That is enough that if you are unsure about it, that you don't know it. So just be quiet. And he is comfortable with the concept of العلم قبل القول والعمل. That knowledge comes before speaking and acting upon it. If the person that's doing this naqal, that's creating content, is comfortable with these principles, then go ahead and take knowledge from him, because you will feel like he is sincere. And if he doesn't know, he will tell you and he will direct you to those who have knowledge. And that's the reason why I keep it real with you. Following on the quotes about the importance of knowledge, Sufyan al-Thawri from Atba' al-Tabi'in, from Kibar Atba' al-Tabi'in, he said, لَيْسَ عَمَلٌ بَعْدَ الْفَرَائِضِ أَفْضَلْ مِنْ طَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ. There is no deed after the obligatory acts of the religion of Islam better than seeking knowledge. Likewise, Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, إِنِّي لَأَسْمَعُ بِكَلِمَةٍ مِمَّا لَمْ أَسْمَعْ فَتَوَدُّ أَعْضَائِي أن يكون لها آذان فتستمع لما استمعت له أو لما استمعت له أذني. I hear a single word of knowledge that I did not know before, and I wish that every limb of mine had ears just to hear what my ear has heard. Likewise, Imam al-Shafi'i, from his eagerness to seeking knowledge, he responded after they asked him, how much do you want knowledge? He said, حرص الجموع المنوع أو حرص الجموع المنوع على ماله. He said, my eagerness for knowledge is like the obsession of a miser protecting his wealth, of a person that is very stingy with his money, that just things off his money. Likewise, he said about how much he wanted knowledge. He said, طلب المرأة المضل لولدها ليس لها ولد غيره. He said, my search for knowledge is like a woman who lost her only child. Nothing distracts her from finding him. So imagine a woman who only has one child and is constantly searching about it, thinking about it. When sleeping, can't sleep. How much that child would be on this woman's mind. That's how much Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, he thought and looked at knowledge and had eagerness towards it. And I will finish with these two quotes of Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi. Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, he says, وَلَقَدْ تَأَمَّلْتُ نَفْسِي بِالْإِضَافَةِ إلى عشيرتي للذين أنفقوا أعمارهم في اكتساب الدنيا وأنفقت زمني أو زمن الصبية والشباب في طلب العلم فرأيتني لم يفتني مما نالوه إلا ما لو حصل لي ندمت عليه ثم تأملت حالي فإذا عيشي في الدنيا أجود من عيشهم وجاهي بين الناس أعلى من جاههم وما نلته من معرفة العلم لا يقاوم. Ibn al-Jawzi, he said, I reflected on myself compared to my relatives who spend their entire lives chasing worldly wealth, while I spend my childhood and youth seeking knowledge. I realized that nothing they gained is something I regret missing out on. And whatever of it I did miss, had I attained it, I would have regretted it. Then I examined my life and found that my worldly living is better than theirs. My status amongst people is higher than theirs. And what I gained of knowledge cannot be compared to anything they have. Likewise, Ibn al-Jawzi, he said in Sayyid al-Khatir, وَلَقَدْ كُنْتُ فِي حَلَوَةِ طَلَبِي لِلْعِلْمِ مَا هُوَ عِنْدِي أَحْلَى مِنَ الْعَسَلِ لِأَجْلِ مَا أطلب وأرجو كنت في زمان الصبا آخذ معي أرغفة يابس فأخرج في طلب الحديث وأقعد على نهر عيسى فلا أقدر على أكلها إلا عند الماء فكلما أكلت لقمة شربت عليها وعين همتي لا ترى إلا لذة تحصيل العلم. He said, I used to experience hardships in the sweetness of seeking knowledge that were to me sweeter than honey. I used to experience, I need to repeat this, friend. I used to experience hardships in the sweetness of seeking knowledge that were to me sweeter than honey because of what I was pursuing and hoping for. In my youth, I would take with me dry pieces of bread and go out in search of hadith. I would sit by the river of Isa, a river called Isa, and could only eat the bread next to the water. Every bite had to be followed by a drink. And yet, the entire focus of my ambition saw nothing except the pleasure of attaining knowledge. So when it comes to this is heavy to read to my heart. This is why as I'm reading this, my heart is taking it. So you guys see the emotions that I go through as reading these quotes of Ibn al-Jawzi. And I want to just comment on it. And hopefully I do justice to the feelings that I truly feel while reading these. And I hope that I do justice in my words. But when it comes to seeking knowledge in the West, and when you see speakers speaking about seeking knowledge, I feel like sometimes many people don't actually get the gist of it. They actually don't. They think they get it, but you don't get it. You don't get the Salaf. As Ibn Qudam al-Maqdisi, he says, وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ يُؤْثِرُونَ الْعِلْمَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. After he has said, وَيَنْبَغِي طَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ قَطْعُ الْعَلَائِقَ الشَّاغِلَةِ. He said it's important for the talib al-ilm that he cuts all distracting relationships or relations to anything he might have. And then at the end of the quote, he says, and the Salaf, the righteous predecessors, they used to prefer and give priority to knowledge over anything in this life. So here, through this story and this quote of Ibn al-Jawzi, I hope to give you a taste of how the Salaf, they used to look at knowledge. And I think the ones from the quotes we have read, the ones that express this the best, because we all hear, okay, sometimes you hear a hadith and it doesn't truly hit you until you hear it through a story of how the Salaf actually implemented this hadith. For example, Prophet ﷺ, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim. Okay, the طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ, seeking knowledge, is obligatory upon every Muslim. And likewise then, as the hadith we read, الدُّنْيَا مَلْعُونَ مَلْعُونُ مَا فِيهَا, the dunya is cursed and everything it contains except for the dhikr of Allah, except for a seeker of knowledge, except for an alim. You hear this hadith, but when you see and you hear it through implementation, and this is why the next part of this chapter is the implementation of this. Okay, how do I learn now? What do I do? How do I actually implement prioritizing knowledge in my life? That's what we want to get to. But the theory, sometimes you don't understand it until you hear from a scholar, put it into practice. So look here, in Sayyid al-Khatir ibn al-Jawzi, he says that he used to go out to seek hadith, sit with the scholars, go to this dars, go to the other dars, be in the majalis, be in the sittings, in the halaqat of the scholars. And he would take with him dry bread, because that's what he had. Obviously, if he had better food, he would take better food. And he would have, from how dry it was, he will have to drink with it water from the river so the bread can go, and so he can eat the bread from how dry it is. And he says that these hardships were sweeter to him than honey. So when it comes to knowledge, when we talk about, before we get into the money and how to be disciplined, when we talk about prioritizing knowledge, and like Al-Imam al-Shafi'i said, he used to seek knowledge like a mother who has only one child and he has lost it. How concerned, stressed, itchy for knowledge, mentally drained, tired of thinking on the next lesson and your revision and make sure that I sleep 3 or 4 hours so I can get to the dars after Fajr. How much concern you have to be with knowledge to get to these levels, to the levels of how the scholars were. Those who Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned them in the Qur'an when he said السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان, the Salaf, those who followed with excellence. Allah says رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Allah was pleased with them and they were pleased with Allah Azza wa Jal of what He has decreed for them. So if these people, Allah was pleased with them, why wouldn't you want to aspire to be like them? If you want the easy route, the route that Allah has already attested and certified, put a stamp on it. This is the type of lifestyle I'm happy with, which is the path of seeking knowledge, which is the path and how these scholars, they used to prioritize knowledge. Now, before we get into the practice of how important it is to seek knowledge, I want to very briefly pause and read this quote of Al-Imam Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi in his book Al-Muwafaqat. من كان مبتدئا في علوم اللغة فهو مبتدئ في الشريعة ومن كان متوسطا فهو متوسط في الشريعة ومن كان منتهيا في علم اللغة فهو منتهي في الشريعة. He says that whoever is beginning in the science of the Arabic language is a beginner in the Sharia. Whoever is intermediate in Arabic is intermediate in understanding the Sharia. And whoever has reached the advanced level in Arabic has reached the advanced level in understanding the Sharia. So when it comes to the practicality and how you need to start, you need to understand that the true knowledge, it will not be accessible unless you have understanding of the language of the Arab, the language that the Prophet ﷺ spoke, the language that the Qur'an was descended in, the language that the Salaf did obnoxious things or did crazy levels of things in order to preserve this knowledge, from putting the Qur'an together and the efforts that there was into compiling the Qur'an to preserve the knowledge. And the Salaf is known that they would beat their children if they made a lahan, if they made a mistake speaking Arabic. Nowadays we have speakers online. Every single verse they quote, they almost make a mistake in it. And that is very sad that we have a very low level of Arabic in some of our most known speakers in the West. And this is exactly why knowledge is not step number 3, not step number 2, but is step number 1. Because everything else, money, discipline, marriage, hijrah, being a father, being a mother, being a leader, being a good son, all of it collapses with our knowledge. Now, we got to the theory. What's the practical and how to actually learn? And what does it look to seek knowledge and be somebody who prioritizes knowledge, just as our righteous predecessors did? Now, for the one who takes this seriously, the one who doesn't want to remain average, let's speak practically. The roadmap you are seeing here in the screen is a realistic, structured path to be grounded or become grounded in seeking knowledge. Now, it's true that not everybody needs to be a scholar. That's true. But every Muslim needs a foundational level of knowledge. And anyone who truly tastes the sweetness of seeking knowledge absolutely falls in love with it. I have never met someone who sought knowledge seriously, except that then even if he stops for the rest of his life, he still has that ongoing guilt of like, man, that life we used to have, seeking knowledge and doing muraja and memorizing and teaching. So if you truly seek knowledge, it becomes your life, your joy, your identity. You become a student of knowledge, a talib ilm. That's when you have really tasted the sweetness of knowledge. Now, this roadmap right here, it shows you exactly how to walk that path. The first step, it would be to find a sheikh that you can go and tell him, I want to study these books. And of course, in general, if you find a sheikh that can teach you, give you tarbiyah, teach you adab or akhlaq, and teach you how to behave and teach you actual life other than actual books, or rather that can teach you that before the books, then of course that sheikh, he will tell you what best suits you. So if you cannot find that, which is the case for most people, then you follow this curriculum with teachers for every single subject. Now, what you do is you study one book, complete it, check it off, and move to the next one. This is how knowledge has always been sought. And as you can see in this roadmap, there's different types. And if we look at the first, marhalat al-ta'sis al-ula, you can see that there is ulum al-ala, and there is maqasid, and there is muqaddimat. Now, ulum al-ala, in the field of seeking knowledge, are known to be the tools of knowledge. They are not the goal. They are the things that allows you to understand the goal. So these includes, for example, Arabic, the Arabic language, usul al-fiqh, sarf, morphology, nahu, mustalah al-hadith. Without these, you cannot truly understand tafsir, fiqh, seerah, aqidah, the Qur'an itself. So this is why Arabic is always the first step. You will never taste knowledge until you understand Arabic. So the beginning should be Arabic, Qur'an memorization. As you can see here in the muqaddimah, in the first marhala, you see hifd al-Qur'an. Obviously, before you start memorizing the Qur'an, you want to understand Arabic, because then, as you can see, the rest of the books are only Arabic books. So this is muttajih, this is given or with in mind somebody who already knows Arabic. And now the first step would be memorizing the Qur'an. Hence why the actual roadmap is in Arabic. Now, after Arabic, the scholars agree that the student begins with memorizing the Qur'an. This roadmap places it at the top for a reason. If you are serious about knowledge, then these two steps, Arabic and Qur'an memorization, are your foundation. If you haven't completed them, don't rush to anything else. Now, how to apply this in real life? Knowledge requires time. You must carve out hours every day for seeking knowledge. This could be online classes, it could be your local masjid, or sometimes you might have to travel to another country to study. Like I did when I was 18 and I went to Egypt for about 6 years, and then I went to Mauritania for 3 years. The principle is one: knowledge must be prioritized above dunya, above anything else, that whether it's seeking, money or rizq or whatever it might be. If knowledge is not being prioritized, or if that seeking of rizq is making you not prioritize knowledge, then then you know that you are being distracted. If right now you need to learn Arabic, then give it 1 hour a day, 2 hours, first thing in the morning. Complete that chapter of your life. Then move to the Quran, the memorization. Then move to the Hadith, Tafsir, one book at a time. Obligatory knowledge comes first though. So remember that if you are already an adult, prayer is wajib. You have to know how to pray. So learning the rulings of Salah is wajib. If you have parents, birrul walidain, knowing how to treat your parents is wajib. All of that is knowledge that you have to acquire first. If you already run a business, if you work for whatever company, you need to know the rulings of earning, which we'll be touching on in the chapter of how to earn money and how to seek rizq. Whatever you are doing in your life, then the knowledge on how to do that thing becomes obligatory for you. And this is the reality that every student learns sooner or later. Allah has already told us the lifestyle He is pleased with, the lifestyle of seeking knowledge, of prioritizing knowledge, prioritizing the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the life that He elevates, the life He blesses, the life He protects. And Ibn al-Jawzi, who was poor growing up, as we have read previously, dedicated his youth in seeking knowledge instead of dunya. And later in life, as he said, he looked back and said that his relatives who chased the dunya didn't end up with anything more than he did. Nothing they gained surpassed what Allah gave him, as in the knowledge. And none of their worldly wealth compared to the richness and honor that knowledge gave him. This is the truth. If you give Allah your youth, your time, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, Allah will take care of your rizq. He will take care of your life. He will take care of your future. I am a walking product of that. When I was 18 and I went for the seating of the woman that I wanted to marry at that time, the family sat me down and the mother asked me, you dropped out of school at 16. You don't know what you want to do with your future. You don't have a career. You don't have a job. How are you going to take care of our daughter? And in my mind at that time, and what I've said is that there's no way, and it doesn't make sense to me, that if I leave everything right now and I go to Egypt to seek knowledge, that Allah Azza wa Jal will not take care of me later on. And as a hadith says, that Allah Azza wa Jal will be how His servant thinks of him. So here is true life experience, that because I was thinking of Allah Azza wa Jal taking care of me later, right now I sit here talking to you, and this year my business has made more than $800,000 as of now. So what other proof do you need to believe that if you truly sincerely put your trust in Allah Azza wa Jal and you give your life to seeking knowledge, which is the most beloved act of worship, as the quotes of the scholars that we have previously read, if that is the most beloved act of worship to Him, do you really think that He will not take care of you if you sacrifice your life for it? Knowledge is not only a sacrifice, it's an investment. And Allah Himself Azza wa Jal guarantees the return. I hope that my words did justice to what I wanted to express in this chapter of the knowledge and the importance of knowledge. And whatever we spoke about after, I need you to understand what I'm really trying to express to you, which is that regardless of whatever you are going to do after this in life, even if you want to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, a executive employee, whatever it might be, you need to understand that as a Muslim, there is nothing better, more honorable, afdal, and more pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal than seeking knowledge and then sacrificing your lifestyle to prioritize that knowledge. You can still run a business, as we will speak about soon. You can still do other things, but it will show in how you talk, sometimes, where you be at, where you live, how you dress, how you behave, if you prioritize knowledge in your life. Before we start this chapter, I want to make something clear. In this part, I'm not going to go deep into the practical how to make money, not because it's not important, but because If I really wanted to make a video like this on how to earn money step by step, this chapter alone would have to be 1 full hour. And so I actually already made another video that's about 2 hours and 30 minutes where I break everything down. In that video, I explain which business models are more suitable for a student of knowledge, depending on if you already have a skill, for example, or if you have no skill at all. And inside of that, inside of Under the Institute, I personally teach my students affiliate marketing, which is basically how to start making money online. There is no need of a skill, no need of putting your face online, and without any upfront investment. We actually have already students who have made over $12,000 in the past 12 months, and other students are making money every month through this same system. So if you want the technical side, the funnels, the content, what course to take, how to make money and stuff like that, go and watch that longer video where I break down the business model in detail. You're going to see it in the description. I will link it in there. Or you can join Under the Institute as well if you want to start earning online, but you don't have any skill yet, that you don't know how to monetize, and you want a clear, halal step-by-step path that you can start using as soon as possible and start earning money. You can go ahead and join Under the Institute. Obviously, Under the Institute is not for free. So this is why I'm sending you to the free resource. So you can actually, get that information from there and decide from there what you want to do. Now, if you do already have a skill, what I would advise is buy courses, learn how to monetize this skill through social media and online offers. And inshallah, bi'idhnillah, make sure that you look for a type of business model that supports your lifestyle of a student of knowledge, rather than actually fight against it. Tamam? So this chapter is not about those mechanics. This chapter is about something deeper, about how to look at it. So let's look into how to look at wealth as a Muslim, as a student of knowledge, and how to actually, make sure that we are looking at this field of life with the right perspective. There is a continuous pattern that you will notice in every classical book of knowledge. They always start with sincerity. The scholars all agreed that without sincerity, your actions are not accepted. And because we were created only to worship Allah, when Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, I haven't created the jinn or the ins except for them to worship me. So because of that, it will be tragic for someone to live thinking they are worshiping Allah and that their prayers, studying, giving in charity, even earning money is accepted, yet Allah does not accept it because the heart wasn't sincere and there was no ikhlas in their actions. So before anything else, we must understand every act in the life of a Muslim must begin with a sincere intention. Now, on the topic of sincerity, I want to share with you a series of quotes, or even in other topics. And by the end of this chapter, inshallah, you will know exactly how a Muslim should view wealth. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Qur'an, يَوْمَ تُبَلَ السَّرَائِرِ. And this was reported in the commentary of Riyadh Salihin by Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen in volume number 1, page 10. He mentioned that a person will only be judged on the day of judgment based on what is in their heart. As Allah Azza wa Jal says, يَوْمَ تُبَلَ السَّرَائِرِ. Indeed, He is able to bring him back to life and on the day when secrets will be examined. يَوْمَ تُبَلَى, they become clear, apparent. السَّرَائِرِ, the secrets. So the man will have no power or any helper, as Allah Azza wa Jal said. This indicates that the innermost secrets, the true intentions and feelings of the heart will be revealed. As Allah further states, does He not know that when the contents of the graves are scattered and the secrets of the hearts are made known? So in Surah Al-Adiyat, Allah Azza wa Jal says, أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ وَحُصِّنَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. Does he not know that when the contents of the graves are scattered and the secrets of the hearts are made known? So in the hereafter, both reward and punishment as well as the value of actions are determined by the state of the heart. So here Allah makes it crystal clear that one, in the day of judgment, the person, every secret will be exposed, including the deepest intentions behind your actions. So before doing anything, whether starting a business, seeking wealth, giving charity, or even embarking on your Islamic studies, you have to remember you will be rewarded based only on the intention deep inside your heart, not the intention you post online, not the intention you write on a whiteboard. My mission statement, my business mission is this. Not the intention you tell people to sound righteous, but the one buried so deep inside of your chest that only you and Allah Azza wa Jal know it. That intention is what Allah will reveal on the day when secrets are exposed. And if that intention is not sincere, if that intention is not made to please Allah or align with Allah's pleasure, the reward will match it, or the punishment will match it, depending on why you are doing. Are you being sincere? Is there ikhlas in it? This alone already shows how dangerous wealth can be if you pursue it with a corrupted intention. And this is why in our next quote, I want to talk to you guys about where Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ يُنَزِّلُ بِقَدَرٍ مَا يَشَاءُ. That if Allah had extended excessively, and Allah Azza wa Jal obviously is Al-Ghani, He is rich, He could extend all His rizq and we will get overwhelmed by how much rizq are we receiving. So if He would do so, they would have committed tyranny throughout the earth. But He sends it down in an amount which He wills. Indeed, He is of His servants acquainted and seeing. He knows each servant. He knows each person and how much he can bear. Because some people, they're just not ready for rizq. If they had rizq, even though they think they would control themselves, if they had rizq, they would have committed tyranny. They would have gone crazy. In the Tafsir ibn Kathir, he says, it means that if He gave them more than their needs, it would lead them to oppression and tyranny against each other out of arrogance and boastfulness. Qatada said, the best living is that which does not distract you or lead you to tyranny. He enriches those who deserve wealth and impoverishes and give poverty to those who deserve poverty. So sometimes Allah does not give wealth because you are not ready for it. And here there's a faida as well, and a side note, a benefit, which is that Allah Azza wa Jal He's capable of anything. And He is the one that responds to the dua. So if you ask Him for $1 million, He is capable and He will give you. And He has told you in the Qur'an, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. He has told you that He will respond to your dua. So the problem is not, why am I not receiving the money then? The problem is, are you ready for the money? So would that make you a better Muslim or a worse one? If you had the money you dream of today, would you still speak of knowledge? Would you still pray on time? Would you still give in sadaqah? Will you still fear Allah Azza wa Jal? Will you still sacrifice for the sake of Allah? Or would that money expose an intention you never admitted to yourself before questioning business models, before chasing opportunities, before crying over lack of success? Ask yourself, if Allah gave me what I'm asking for today, would it help my deen? Or would it destroy it? And subhanAllah, Allah knows best why He has given me what matter of fact, I wasn't even asking Him for what I have today. And this is, and like I have said before, I am a walking product of this text that we are reading right now. And in this clip that you are going to see right now is me broke as I was still delivering food in London. And I had learned and had some success with Amazon businesses, and at that point I had the opportunity to rent a office in Vauxhall in London. And in that time, I'm talking about what would I do if I had $1 million. And you will see that what I was wishing for at that time is not too different for with what I'm wishing for today. But the problem is that many people, they wish for something and then they get the money and they don't follow through with the intention they said they were gonna have.
If you had 1 million right now, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Oh, I like that. I like that. I like it. I like that. I love.
What I would do with 1 million? First thing, I will invest in family first. A percentage of it has to go to sadaqah. Then also I would invest in, even if it's like 600k or 700k, even if I have to invest all of that money in one luxurious apartment here in London, I will do that. And then the rest of it, but you know what, I'm thinking, should I invest in a house in Saudi Arabia? But anyways, man, I will probably, you know, that's one thing I know, is that Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he says in Riyadh Salihin, Sharh Riyadh Salihin, in Babul Ikhlas, he talks about like istihdarun niyyah, so bringing or renewing your niyyah. And basically he says that you can, Allah has made it so easy for you to gain hasanat that even when you intend something, so if you put the intention that you're going to do something, if you had, you know, that amount of wealth, that will be, you know, you'll be having one hasana. So yeah, that was a question, random question that I want to ask my boy Abdul Rahim. We're in here in the office, you already know what's going on. Everyday business talk, and until we make it, we're gonna be doing this. Inshallah, with the will of Allah, we're gonna get where we wanna get. And yo, we ask you guys for some du'as, for some Allahumma bariks, and see you on the next video.
So here, as you can see, for context, before I show you other videos, at this point, as you can hear at the end of the video, I said, until we make it, and hopefully we're gonna get where I want to be. So at that time, I was still delivering food with Deliveroo and Uber Eats in London, and I had enough money to rent a office in Vauxhall for about £700 a month. And so what I was doing is, at peak hours, I will go and deliver food, and throughout the night and in the morning, early in the morning, I will go to the office and I would just work on different things related to learning how to do business online. And as you will hear in some other clips, at that time I was sleeping in the living room with my wife and 2 kids at that time in London, in a council estate flat. You guys know from the UK how tight that is. And so the reason why I got the office is because it was so tight that I couldn't focus with 2 kids running around. In the night, it was the living room was the bedroom. In the day, it was, just the living room. And so there was no time where I could actually focus on learning. So I went ahead and got that office so I could focus more. But as you can see from what I'm saying in there, I was thinking already, if I had money, I would invest in family, which is what I did. As soon as I started making money, I fixed my grandmother's apartment in Barcelona for $40,000, and then we sold it. I then went ahead as well and bought a house in Senegal for my parents, which costed, a little bit over $100,000. Very nice. It was one of the most, heart-touching accomplishments that I have accomplished, because it was for my parents and it was, a long life goal. And as you can see as well, I am thinking of going to Saudi Arabia. I was thinking of buying a house in Saudi Arabia. The reason why is because Saudi Arabia is, there's scholars there and I could learn, and just, being in the place where the Prophet ﷺ lived is a long life goal. And so I will now let you watch the next clip, and I'm gonna comment on it. And I became a student of Islamic knowledge, so I went to Egypt to study for 5 years. My goal right now is to memorize Qur'an. So I've just been finding or looking for ways of passive income through Amazon FBA, through affiliate marketing. And now in the second clip, you can see that I am publicly in front of a bunch of people who don't care about no seeking knowledge. They probably don't even know how honorable it is to memorize the Qur'an. They are not on the same vibe I am. As they say in Arabic, أنا في وادي وهم في واد آخر. I am in a valley and they are in another valley. But yet, I was vocalizing my goals because it was my identity. And here I was part of this network marketing company, which I only stayed there for 1 month, by the way. It was a lot of ikhtilat and a lot of free mixing and things that I wasn't too happy about. And being there, it taught me a few things, but it was very important for me to stay true to why I was trying that out, that network marketing company, because I was seeking for ways of passive income, as I said. And I was generally trying to find a way how I can earn money and then go back and continue my studies. So the intention was always to go and seek knowledge. And yeah, Amazon, inshallah, it will build up. But I'm gonna start looking for a second product now. Inshallah, man. Inshallah, it will be alright. Hopefully, I can go to Dar al-Hadith in Mecca. That would be nice. Now, as you can see in this private audio message where I was talking to a brother that was very close while I was in Egypt. Now, after I got kicked out at the end of 2017, I was very confused. I didn't know what to do because I was trying to finish my Sharia faculty so I could have a degree that I can at least, at that time I was thinking I would just work with it or whatever it might be. It's an accomplishment, a life accomplishment. And I was telling him I'm so confused. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do next. And he's advised me to just focus on Qur'an and focus on making money so at least I can, like have some stability for my family, because he knew I was at my mom's apartment at that time. And so in this audio, if you pay attention, I said that hopefully the business of Amazon, at that time I was selling products on Amazon. You can hear me as well say that I'm looking for a second product. And I was saying, hopefully it takes off so I can go to Dar al-Hadith in Mecca. Dar al-Hadith in Mecca is basically a branch of Medina University in Mecca. And it's, it's like a program that is a little bit more serious and more rigid than Medina University, where there's even requirements of certain amounts of Qur'an that you have to memorize to enter. And so, even in that moment of stress, in this moment of confusion, I was thinking, man, hopefully this takes off so I can go and continue my studies. Now, I will show you the next video.
This whole year, and this is something that I wasn't sharing with you guys, but I stayed by myself in my grandmother's house in Spain, just so I cut off all my expenses. Okay, my family were away from me. I stayed for 1 whole year by myself without my wife and my kids, just for the sake of learning and mastering the world of online business. Why? It goes back to what I always wanted to do, which is study the Islamic knowledge. And I know for a fact, I was for 5 years in Egypt. I tried sewing. I tried teaching Arabic online, but I didn't know, all that I know right now. I didn't know how to teach it, how to market it, how to sell, things like that. I tried at the end of my years, I tried just going to London and coming back to Egypt, like working in London for 1 month, staying in Egypt for 3, 4, 5 months, delivering food in London. So what I'm trying to say is that my purpose is always been seeking knowledge. Like I have a super intense love for seeking knowledge and not for what I can accomplish with knowledge, but the feeling that knowing, and when I say knowing, I'm talking about the ilm qala Allah wa qala Rasul qala Sahaba, the feeling in your life and how calm you are in your life and tranquil your heart is. Like Allah said, isn't it that with the remembrance of Allah the hearts find peace? It's just because of that, right? So what I'm trying to say is that was the whole purpose. One thing is, alhamdulillah, I spent a whole year fully focused on learning about business in general, and more focused on online business and how to monetize, how to earn money online, how to earn money from a laptop. Alhamdulillah, and only by the grace of Allah, this has been achieved. And so what I'm trying to say is that, once this was done for me, I had to go back to what I always wanted to do, which is seeking knowledge, right? So I came here to Mauritania. Obviously, Mauritania, we know all Mauritania is known for seeking knowledge, for just knowledge. It's a country known because of all the ulama that came out of here, basically. It's a blessing. And for me, this is what I call success. Like, success is subjective for everyone. For me, I'm super successful right now, just for the fact of accomplishing what you want to do. As soon as you're accomplishing what you want to do, you are successful. You know what I mean? Me living literally just in front of the masjid, being here and doing what I always wanted to do, that's a huge success already. And I ask Allah that He grants us and you guys, all the viewers, success في الدنيا والآخرة.
And so here in this last video that I wanted to show you is when I now started to get the world of how to make money online, and I took my family to Mauritania. As soon as I had a little bit of money coming in, at that time I think I was making between 1,000 to 3,000. It was fluctuating. And I remember when I first went to Mauritania, I only had $1,000 in my bank account. And it cost me about £500 to go there and get an Airbnb for a week, and I was intending to get an apartment. And at that time, I felt so successful. I felt like now I'm earning online. I see the vision. I see how it's possible. I am in Mauritania, in a Muslim country. I was at footsteps of the masjid. My children are learning, and that's what I call success. And so this to show you the importance of having a clear, pure, consistent, genuine intention with Allah Azza wa Jal. If that is the case, Allah Azza wa Jal will have your back, regardless of how many hardships you go through in the journey. It doesn't make sense that you are doing all you're doing for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, and He doesn't take care of you. And this brings me to quote number 3, where Ibn al-Qayyim explains that amongst the effects of sins are being deprived of provision. Meaning, if sins are many, provision decreases. If piety increases, provision increases. This is why before seeking wealth, you must renew your intention and purify your heart, because sins directly affect your rizq. He says, إِنَّ الْعَبْدَ لَيُحْرَمُ الرِّزْقَ بِالذَّنْبِ يُصِيبُهُ. That indeed a servant is deprived of provision due to a sin he commits. And he says, وَمَا اسْتُجْلِبَ رِزْقُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى بِمِثْلِ تَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي. Just as piety towards Allah Azza wa Jal brings about provision, abandoning piety brings about poverty. But here the translation that AI gave me, it doesn't give justice, because in Arabic it says وَمَا اسْتُجْلِبَ رِزْقُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى بِمِثْلِ تَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي. And there is not a cause, a means that is better, that has brought about rizq, like leaving and abandoning sins. وَلِلْمَعَاصِ مِنَ الْآثَارِ الذَّمِيمَ أَنَّهَا تُورِثُ ظُلْمَ فِي الْقَلْبِ وَظُلْمَ فِي الْقَبْرِ وَظُلْمَ فِي الْوَجْهِ وَوَهْنًا فِي الْبَدَنِ وَنُقْصَانًا فِي الرِّزْقِ وَبُغْضًا فِي قُلُوبِ الْخَلْقِ. He says, indeed a sin causes darkness on the face, darkness in the grave, in the heart, weakness in the body, a reduction in provision, and disdain in the hearts of people. Qayyim mentioned this in Ad-Da wa Dawa. And Allah Azza wa Jal Himself confirms this in the Qur'an when He says إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah will not change the state, your state, the state of a people until they change themselves. So if you want more income, you want more opportunities, more stability, more success, that change will not happen unless you change the spiritual state inside of you. And that change will not happen except through Allah Azza wa Jal tawfiq and success and help. So the first step toward earning wealth is not an online course. It's not finding the best, the best method on how to earn money in 2026. It's not a business model. It's not a marketing strategy. It is the repentance, sincerity, and internal change that happens in the heart of the Muslim. Now we'll move on the topic of the Islamic ruling and how Islam looks at wealth. Now in Islam, earning a living is not just allowed, it's an obligation. Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, he mentions in his book Al-Kasb, which literally translates to how to earn, earning. He says, إن طلب الكسب فريضة على كل مسلم كما أن طلب العلم فريضة. وفي رواية قال طلب الكسب بعد الصلاة المكتوبة الفريضة بعد الفريضة. He says that the pursuit of earning a living is an obligation upon every Muslim, just as seeking knowledge is an obligation. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he says in a narration, seeking to earn a living after the obligatory prayer is a duty after a duty. And like I said, this is found in a book called Al-Kasb by Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, who he was a scholar in his time, better known as the companion of Abu Hanifa. This is one of the giants of the Hanafi madhab, the companion of Abu Hanifa. He was a student of Abu Yusuf, Sufyan al-Thawri, al-Awza'i, and later on he traveled to Medina. He learned from Imam Malik. So the idea that a Muslim should avoid wealth or that becoming financially stable is dunya and you shouldn't do it is simply not Islamic, but rather, as we have seen, is rather an obligation. And he has mentioned likewise in this book Al-Kasb that earning a living and doing business and having a hustle is the way of the prophets. He says, وَكَانَ أَبُونَ آدَمَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ أَوَّلْ مَنِ اكْتَسَبَ قال تعالى فلا يخرجنكم من الجنة فتشقى أي تتعب في طلب الرزق. وقال مجاهد لا تأكل الخبز بالسمن حتى تعمل فيه إلى أن تموت. So here, Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, he says that earning a living is the path of the prophets, peace be upon them. We have been commanded to follow their guidance, where Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَبِهُدَاهُمْ اقتدي. And he says that our father Adam alayhi salam was the first to earn a living, because Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Qur'an, فَلَا الْجَنَّةِ فَتَشْقَى. Do not let shaitan expel you from the garden, from Jannah, causing you to toil. This means to work hard to seek sustenance, as Mujahid interpreted it, which is one of the Mufassirun, one of the interpreters of the Qur'an. He says that do not let shaitan expel you from Jannah, causing you to toil. Fatashqa, you find mashaqqa, you find difficulty. Mujahid, he says that it means that you will not eat bread with oil until you work for it until death. Bread with oil, as in eating bread with oil, is a luxury. The fact that you can dip the bread in is a luxury. So you won't get that until you work for it until death. And here's a fa'idah and a side note, which is the fact that you being in this dunya, a ongoing punishment is the fact that you have to work for sustenance. And in Al-Jannah, you will have whatever your heart, whatever your nafs tashtahi. So whatever your nafs will desire in Al-Jannah, you are able to have it. But in Ad-Dunya, the punishment is the fact that you have to work. And these are things that you, when you live in Ad-Dunya, every day it became normal to you. This punishment, it became normal. But you have to remember, subhanAllah, and is an ibrah, is a lesson in this. And this is why it's important to ponder on the Qur'an and read the tafsir. Because this tiredness that you feel after, every Monday in the morning when you go to work, and the fact that you have to study to get a degree and then find a job, and the 9 to 5 and the rat race and all of these. And even when you run a business, it's even worse. When you run a business, you sleep less. When you run a business, you are constantly, ongoingly stressed, thinking about metrics, thinking about teams, and thinking about a bunch of different things. This stress, this lack of tranquility of the heart, in Al-Jannah, you're not going to have it. So you are supposed to struggle like this in Dunya. And so the fact that you have to seek provision, work, sell something, hustle, trade, is part of your punishment in Dunya. And is an obligation for you to do. And Allah Azza wa Jal, from His hikmah, has made it that you are not able to find sustenance unless you work for it, unless you seek rizq and find money so you can buy food to feed your family. So az-zabda is that wealth, when earned correctly, is prophetic. It's not just halal. So the question is not whether you should earn or you shouldn't, but the question is how you earn and why you earn. And this brings me to quote number 9, where in the same book, Al-Kasb, Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, he says that is an obligation because Allah Azza wa Jal says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtum. Allah Azza wa Jal is telling you and commanding you to spend from what we earn. And what is necessary to fulfill an obligation becomes an obligation itself. And this is a very known rule in usul al-fiqh, in fundamentals of fiqh, understanding it. And by the way, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he used this same rule and the same principle to say that Arabic is an obligation, because for you to understand the Qur'an and the Sunnah, you need Arabic. So whatever you need as a tool to reach the goal, the Qur'an and the Sunnah, becomes as well an obligation. So this is a good moment to say, if you want to learn Arabic, go and watch this video that you see on screen right now. But the point is that Imam Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani here, he used it in the topic of earning as well. Because if Allah Azza wa Jal tells you to spend from the good things that you have earned, then it means that the part spend becomes an obligation. So whatever leads to being able to spend, which is having the money, becomes an obligation itself. So he says, the command here is a true obligation, and it is not conceivable to spend from what is earned without earning it first. What is necessary to establish worship and fulfill obligations becomes itself an obligation. قال محمد بن حسن الشيباني فأمرهم الله أن ينفقوا من كسبهم والقيه في الوجوب ولا يتصور الإنفاق مما كسب إلا بعد الكسب فما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. And this is the rule, فما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. So you cannot give charity without earning first. You cannot provide for your family without earning first. You cannot study knowledge or travel here, travel there, buy food so you can actually have some energy to go to the sheikh in a sustainable way, at least without earning. Therefore, earning money is an obligation. Not every Muslim needs to build a $1 billion business or to become a millionaire, but every Muslim must have and earn enough to fulfill their obligations, to protect their dignity, to support their family, and live without begging. And this brings me to quote number 10, where Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, he says, and this was reported in Hilyat al-Awliya wa Tabaqat al-Asfiya by Abu Nu'aym al-Asfahani. He says, سمعت أبا عبد الله محمد بن عبد الرحمن بن وهب سمعت الشافعي يقول العلم يحتاج أو طالب العلم يحتاج إلى 3 خصال إحداها ذات اليد والثانية طول العمر والثالثة يكون له ذكاء. He says a seeker of knowledge needs 3 things: sufficient wealth, a long life, i.e. health, and intelligence. Wealth is mentioned first not to glorify dunya, but because without wealth, your studies collapse. A student of knowledge who cannot feed his family cannot study or even feed himself. And a student of knowledge who is drowning in debt cannot study. A student of knowledge who is stressed about money cannot focus on the Qur'an and is going to continue to forget, make mistakes as he is trying to do istihdar, as he is trying to remember knowledge. And this is why as well Imam Malik said, وقال الإمام مالك لا يصلح طلب لعدم ولا لغني متكبر وقيل له ما أفضل ما يصنع العبد قال طلب العلم. He said that seeking knowledge is not suitable for someone in financial distress, meaning before you seek higher levels of knowledge, you must first stabilize your life and your provision. Likewise, Sufyan al-Thawri, he says, المال في هذا الزمان سلاح للمؤمن. وقال أيضا كان المال فيما مضى يكره فأما اليوم فهو مؤمن. And this was reported in حلية الأولياء لأبي نعيم وذكره ابن الجوزي في تلبيس إبليس. Sufyan al-Thawri, he said المال في هذا الزمان سلاح. That wealth is in this era a weapon, and in the past it was disliked, but in this time it had become the shield of the believer. And if that was true in his era, then what about ours? Today, wealth protects your honor. It preserves you from dignity. It frees you from begging people, frees you from workplaces full of fitna, allows you to seek knowledge, which is the best thing that one can do, allows you to live in Muslim environments, allows you to raise your family with Islam, allows you to give da'wah without being dependent on anyone or having to align with somebody's masjid rules or whatever it might be because they're giving you a salary. And by the way, what I'm trying to say with that is that they might restrict you from saying the truth sometimes. So if a student of knowledge appears poor, unable to care of his appearance, people will blame the religion directly, not his circumstances. So in these cases, earning provision is not more important than seeking extra knowledge than what is already obligatory, because now people are seeing Islam through you. So if you are so poor that you can't even like it's so apparent, then it's your obligation to actually start seeking the rizq and earning money. And to finish this chapter, I want to mention the quote of Imam Malik that we mentioned previously. He was asked, وَمَا أَفْضَلُ مَا يَصْنَعُ الْعَبْدِ قَالَ طَالَبُ الْعِلْمِ. And this directly ties to the first chapter, where Imam Malik, he was asked, what is the best thing a servant can do? He replied, seeking knowledge. So this video, obviously, I'm talking to high aspiring Muslims. So this is why I'm so heavy on seeking knowledge, because it's the best thing you can do. And you shouldn't feel like, because I know some people out there, they say, yeah, but I'm just not it. I'm not a student of knowledge. I'm just an entrepreneur. You aspiring to the wrong things. If you are really about following the footsteps of the Salaf, those who, as we said on chapter 1, those who Allah Azza wa Jalla already put a stamp that He agrees with the lifestyle that they had. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. That He was pleased with them and they were pleased with what Allah had for them and had decreed with them. So until here, and as a summary, this is how you should look at wealth. Wealth, the must-have is you have to earn enough for you to feed yourself, to feed your family, and have enough to do the best thing, which is seek knowledge and have a lifestyle of seeking knowledge. And if you decide to go above and beyond of what you actually need, and you actually want to grow a business or whatever it might be, then make sure that that is not your vehicle to go to Jahannam because of your intentions. So make sure your intention is pure, and make sure your intention is actually the one that you are saying, the one that is inside of your heart. Make sure it's the one that you are saying and the one that you are, publicizing, because otherwise it can bring you to hellfire. And make sure as well that if you run a business, that it doesn't distract you from the actual life that you're supposed to live, which is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I haven't created the jinn or the ins, the jinn or the mankind, except for them to worship me. So if it's distracting you from worship, know that that is a distraction. Even if you think that doing the bare minimum, your prayers and your 5 pillars, is enough and I'm getting all this money coming in. Know that sometimes there is a next level, a next version of yourself that Allah is more pleased with and is locked with this distraction, which is business, which is running a business, thinking about money. And now you're stuck in this version of yourself. You do your 5 prayers, you do your 5 pillars, but there's actually a next version of yourself that is locked by you actually putting less importance into this business side of your life. Welcome to chapter 3, the most important chapter, how to gain discipline, how to keep it, how to take care. How to hold and how to grab your nafs by the neck and control it. That's what we're going to talk about. Because everything is about controlling your nafs when it comes to discipline. Now, in the first chapter, we spoke about the importance of Islamic knowledge. In the second, we spoke about how a Muslim should look at wealth. In this chapter, we are going to put everything together and talk about the engine that makes all of that in real life happen and how you can actually implement it, the discipline part of it. In this chapter, we will talk about what discipline really is in Islam, why we lose discipline step by step. Likewise, we are going to talk about the 3 steps to build and protect discipline, guarding what enters in your system, strengthening your Iman, and gaining knowledge through the Qur'an and the Arabic language. Now, first of all, what discipline really is. When people hear the word discipline, they think of motivation, waking up at 5 a.m., forcing yourself to work. But in Islam, discipline is much deeper than that. It is self-control for the sake of Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. He says, but as for the one who feared standing before his Lord, in front of his Lord, and restrained the soul from its desires, then paradise will certainly be his refuge. This is in Surah An-Nazi'at. So Allah Azza wa Jal here mentioned 2 things that lead you to Jannah. In this ayah, Allah mentions fearing the standing in front of your Lord. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. And the second thing is restraining the nafs from its desires. Now, this is discipline. You feel like doing something, your nafs wants it, but you say to yourself, I will not do this because one day I will stand in front of Allah and answer for it. So discipline is not just a nice life skill. It is a condition to be a practicing Muslim and to enter Jannah. Now, why we lose discipline? Many people think discipline is like a switch. I will live however I want, and when I'm ready, I will suddenly become disciplined. It doesn't work like that. Allah Azza wa Jal told us our reality, where He said, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Allah wants to lighten the burden for you. And the man was created weak. In Surah An-Nisa, man was created weak. You are weak by nature. We are weak by nature. And if you put yourself again and again in bad environments, wrong friends, late nights, scrolling, small sins, you will eventually break. Losing discipline is gradual. First time you say a bad word, watch something you shouldn't be watching, eat what you know destroys your health. And the second time, it feels a bit easier. It feels like it's not that big of an issue. The third, the fourth, the fifth time, it becomes normal. You even start trying to justify what you have done as not being that bad. Maybe even find sometimes a fatwa, maybe even find sometimes a hadith, an ayah that justifies you doing the thing. And after a while, you don't just do the action, it becomes part of who you are. Your nafs is like a spoiled child. If you give it everything, it asks for it, it will keep asking for more, louder. And you will feel weaker every time it asks for. So discipline is not only about doing hard things, it is also about stopping the slow leaks that are making you weaker every day. And this brings me to the next chapter, which is guarding what enters your system. Think of yourself as a system. Whatever enters your eyes, your ears, your mouth, and mind will either strengthen you, strengthen your system, or corrupt it. Now, today, one of the biggest traps is what people call dopamine. Every time you scroll, snack, watch something you shouldn't be watching, watch something addictive, listen to music, or play video games for hours, your brain gets a cheap, fast reward, right? So think of dopamine like that, a cheap, fast reward. And we call it dopamine. So a good example of this could be, eating junk food, late nights, doing absolutely nothing beneficial, scrolling on social media, endless video watching, binge watching on YouTube, haram or doubtful content, endless debates about nothing beneficial, not from scholars, hours of gaming, music, and entertainment that pulls you away from Allah Azza wa Jal. All of these make your system weaker. They don't only waste time, they lower your resistance to that. When a real test comes, you can say no to your nafs. And on the other side, the actions that actually make you a better Muslim and a stronger person usually do not give you instant pleasure. It takes time, like studying, like memorizing the Qur'an, like praying on time, like working out, like waking up early, like the reward of these things that actually give you growth as a person, makes you a more wise person. The reward comes later. You feel tired during the action, but strong after it. So the first step to build discipline is reduce cheap dopamine and increase purposeful discomfort. That means cut down or eliminate junk food, for example. Protect your sleep, which we're going to talk a little bit more in depth later. Limit or delete social media that makes you scroll. Remove haram content completely, or even get off social media if there is no benefit in it, and the benefit that there's in it you can get from somewhere else. Add small hard actions to your day that makes that dopamine feel. The more you do difficult things, the more the cheap dopamine things will make you feel disgusted to yourself almost. So if you add difficult things like a focused workout, a cold shower, a fixed study block after blocking your phone, then every time you say no to cheap dopamine and yes to a hard but beneficial action, your discipline grows. And the more times you do that, the more disciplined you become. So it's important that every time your nafs asks you to do something, you look at it as an opportunity to increase 1% of discipline in your actual self. And if you continue to do that every time your nafs asks you for something, you become a more and more disciplined person. So later on, you don't get weakened by things that your nafs is asking you that are going to give you cheap dopamine and quick rewards. Now, the next step that I want to talk about, and the next thing, is strengthening your Iman, even if your lifestyle is full of bad habits. You see, there is something that can pull you out of it in one moment, which is strong Iman. If you are, struggling with any type of addiction, with any type of cheap dopamine, whatever it might be, strong Iman, when they say Iman and faith move mountains, this is what we mean. Sometimes Allah gives a servant a moment of awakening, a reminder or maybe a calamity, a verse, a lecture, and suddenly the heart wakes up. When Iman is high, it becomes easy to leave what displeases Allah, even if you were addicted to it. There is a famous principle that helped many people, including me, leave sins and bad habits. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, "Man taraka shay'an lillahi awwadahu khayran minhu." Whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace it with something better for him. So if you really believe this, if you really believe in the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ being Anbiya, the last prophet, and you really believe in this hadith, it becomes much easier to say no to your nafs. If you want discipline, you cannot only think about systems and habits. You have to ask, how is my Iman? How often do I remember the day I will stand in front of Allah? How often do I cry, make sincere dua, ask for help from the Most High? High Iman gives you the power to break chains you thought were impossible to break. But this brings me to the next topic, which is that how do I gain Iman? How do I increase my Iman? So the easy answer is by leaving sins. If you leave sins and ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give you more Iman, your Iman will increase. But you know what thing gives you the highest levels of Iman that you can have? Is gaining knowledge to fuel your Iman. The only real path to stable, strong Iman is knowledge. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an, in this topic, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Only those who truly fear Allah Azza wa Jalla amongst His servants are those who have knowledge. This is in Surah Fatir. The difference between a normal Muslim and a scholar is how much they know about Allah. So the more you know His names and attributes, the more you study how He dealt with the previous nations, the more you see His wisdom in the Qur'an and the Sunnah and understand it, the more you fear Him, love Him, and want to obey Him. That fear and love become fuel for discipline. Allah also said about Yahya, Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitaba biquwwa wa ataynahu al-hukma sabiyya. O Yahya, take the book, the scripture that was revealed to Yahya, take the book with strength, and we gave him sound judgment while he was still a boy. You can find this in Surah Maryam. Allah commanded him to take that scripture with strength, and once he did that, Allah gave him sound judgment, stoicism, wisdom, even though he was still a boy. So knowledge and knowledge of the scripture, in this case the last revelation of the Qur'an, will give you that what makes those people that Allah Azza wa Jal said that they are the only servants that truly fear Allah Azza wa Jal, i.e. the scholars, it will give you what they have, which is knowledge. إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. That only those who fear Allah truly, and only them truly fear Allah Azza wa Jal. When you hold onto the Qur'an with strength, your judgment becomes stronger. Your sense of right and wrong becomes clearer. You feel embarrassed to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is exactly what discipline is. Using your mind to overcome your desires. Using your mind to overcome your desires. And using your mind and likewise your Iman to control your nafs. Now this brings me to another topic, which is why the Arabic language and why I am such a advocate of calling the Western Muslims to learn the Arabic language, to not accept being average and just continue to understand the Deen through a translated version of Islam, translated Mus'haf, translated Qur'an, translated lessons, but rather have as a life goal to learn the Arabic language so you can access directly the books. And this is why Arabic is the first tool of discipline. Al-Imam Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi, in his book Al-Muwafaqat, as we said earlier in the first chapter, in the importance of knowledge, he says, Al-Imam Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi, من كان مبتدئا في علوم اللغة فهو مبتدئ في الشريعة ومن كان متوسطا فهو متوسط في الشريعة ومن كان منتهيا في علم اللغة فهو منتهٍ في الشريعة. This is what Imam Abu Ishaq al-Shatibi said in his book and renowned book of Al-Muwafaqat, that talks about usul al-fiqh and the fundamentals and rules of how to use fiqh. He says whoever is a beginner in the sciences of Arabic language is a beginner in the Sharia, and whoever is a intermediate level of Arabic, he's going to be intermediate level in Sharia, and whoever has reached an advanced level in Arabic has matched the advanced level in the Sharia. Now, to reach this level of knowledge, you need access to the Qur'an directly, the books of Aqidah, Fiqh, Tazkiyah, which a lot of them haven't been translated. The word of the scholars, being able to have access to them, being able to go back and forth, maintain a phone conversation with them about a topic you haven't understood. And all of this is in Arabic. You can live your whole life on small reminders in your language, in the English language, on YouTube, etc., in your local masjid. But if you want to become above average, if you want to access the heavy knowledge that truly changes your heart, that truly makes you your next version of yourself as a Muslim, you need to learn Arabic. Arabic is not just another language. It's the key that opens the door to the knowledge that builds Iman, and the Iman that builds discipline. So the path is very simple. Protect your system, reduce cheap dopamine, remove haram, do hard beneficial actions daily, strengthen your Iman. Remember the standing and the day that you're going to be standing in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. Make tawbah, make dua, keep good company, seek knowledge. Start with the Arabic language, then the Qur'an, then the books of the scholars, and the step-by-step roadmap that I gave you guys in the first chapter. If you do these three things consistently, discipline will not be a mystery anymore. It will become your lifestyle. And when discipline becomes your lifestyle, for the sake of Allah, then by His permission, and only by His permission, every other chapter of your life opens. Knowledge, wealth, family, Qur'an, and Jannah. Alright, so now we have understood the theory of discipline. In the last part of this chapter, I want to take you into the implementation, how to actually build a life system that keeps you disciplined every single day in a way that is completely aligned with Islam, in a way that it makes it easy. So we are going to get into the implementation and implementing discipline in your life. Now, how to build a life system that keeps you disciplined? First of all, turn every big goal into ibadah. Before we talk about planning and routines, we need a rule. Every major goal in your life has to be a way of worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. And I'm reiterating this. I know we have spoke about it in a previous chapter, but this is very important because it will make everything else easier. Whether you want to be a businessman, whether you want to make millions, get in shape, become more intelligent, more knowledgeable, memorize the Qur'an, if it's dunya or deen related, it has to be for Allah Azza wa Jal. It makes no sense for someone to set a goal that triggers the anger of Allah. I want to become the biggest drug dealer in my area. How is Allah going to bless something He already made haram? So you reframe it, for example, by saying, I want to make millions to spend in the path of Allah, to free my time for knowledge, to provide for my family with dignity, to whatever it might be that aligns with the worship of Allah. You say, for example, I want to be strong, in shape, and look good, so that people sees that those who submit to Allah Azza wa Jal are strong, sharp, and disciplined, not lazy and broken. Tamam? You don't want people to look at a practicing Muslim and see broke, fat, weak, slow, and then blame the deen. You want them to see that being submitted to Allah, and that actually being Muslim brings the best version of a human being. So you become a walking da'wah. When your goal becomes worship, then your hustle, your workouts, your revision, all of it becomes a continuous ibadah, a continuous worship. Now, once we have that clear, we need to set a life mission. So once we have an intention, we move to structure. Most people wake up like a snail with no direction, just moving whatever the wind brings them. Same routine every day, no bigger picture. You cannot be disciplined if you don't even know what you are being disciplined for and what you want to be disciplined for. So you sit down and write your life mission. Ask yourself, what is the ideal life I want to be living 10, 20 years from now in a way that pleases Allah Azza wa Jal. Maybe for you, it looks like having $100,000 invested, for example, having memorized the Qur'an, being married to however many wives, however many children, living in a certain place, in a certain environment that helps your worship. Write it down, clear, paragraph per paragraph. This becomes your life mission statement that you read every morning, every night. So when you wake up, you are not just going to work. You are waking up to serve the mission that is worship, because you have set it up before. Now, my dear brother, my dear sister, once you have a life mission, we want to convert that mission into yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily things that we need to be doing. So we reverse engineer now. You take your life mission, and from your life mission, you choose no more than 3 major goals per year that you want to accomplish. Not 15, not 20, just 1 to 3 big things. So for example, mission for next few years is memorize the Qur'an. Tamam, Jamil Jiddan. I want to as well get married and have stable family. Tamam, Jamil Jiddan. I want to invest $100,000 in cash. Jamil Jiddan. Now, you cannot give all of these 3, perhaps, the same intensity at the same time. Maybe this year you focus on Qur'an. You don't, completely drop that goal that you want to accomplish in life. You keep it written down in your life mission, but this year you want to give that intensity into this thing, into memorizing the Qur'an. Later on, we will see about investing the $100,000, portfolio that you want to invest. But right now, you want to focus on Qur'an alone. Now, let's take an example. Let's take memorizing the Qur'an. Tamam? You say, this year, I want to memorize 12 juz, 12 chapters from the Qur'an, because that's what's realistic for me, right? After you do the math. Doing the math will look like, for example, on average, around, each chapter is around 20 pages. That's 240 pages in a year. So you break it down. If yearly you want to memorize 12 chapters, that means that monthly will be 1 chapter per month. So around 20 pages per month. Now, is that realistic? Weekly is about 5 pages. That means that I will memorize 1 page every, 1 page for 5 days, and then 2 days to perhaps revise what I have memorized. So daily becomes more than half a page if I do it daily. Now, your daily routine is not just random. You know that if today you memorize half a page and revise what you did before, you are on track for your yearly goal, which is on track for your life mission. But you also have responsibilities. Maybe 2 hours every morning, you taking the kids to school, and you have 8 hours of work. And that's already 10 hours blocked that you cannot give to this particular yearly goal. So realistically, how many free hours do I have? You need to ask yourself. With those hours, what is a realistic daily target I can achieve without burning out? Maybe you only have 1-2 hours a day. So instead of half a page, you set 2 a day, or 2 ayahs a day. So you calculate 2 ayahs a day for a year. How much is that? Maybe 3 chapters. So you change your yearly goal to 3 chapters a year, because that's what fits your life. This gives you peace. You are not failing. You are on a path at a pace that you can actually maintain. And here we apply the hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ahabbul a'mali ila Allahi adwamuha wa in qal, that the most beloved deeds to Allah Azza wa Jal are those that are done consistently, even if they are few. So you choose small, realistic daily actions that you can keep doing for years. So you want to give yourself a realistic goal based on how much time you have a day, and then see if that is a realistic goal for that year to accomplish. Now, once you have a yearly goal and that you know how much per day you have to do to accomplish that yearly goal that aligns with your life mission, then what we want to do as well is plan your tomorrow tonight. If you want to make sure that you execute correctly, know that your day actually starts the night before. Before you sleep, you take 10 to 15 minutes and you write, tomorrow, my number one task is going to be this thing. For example, memorize half a page as soon as I wake up. Reach out to 10 companies if I'm running a business. Prepare a lesson if I'm teaching. You decide that before you sleep. So when you wake up, you pray your fajr, you do your adhkar, you do your essentials, do whatever you need to do with your family, and you go straight into the main task that you know you need to be doing that day. No wasting mental energy in the morning, decided, what should I do first? Let me see, maybe I should start with this thing, and then you wasting already time. And that time is energy that's taken away from what you could be doing if you have set it up the day before. So this goes again with the principle, if you don't plan to win, you basically are planning to lose. If you are planning to accomplish for success, you are already planning for failure, basically, because failure requires lack of planning. So you have already planned for failure. Now, this brings me to an important point as well, which is protecting your sleep like a warrior. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Qur'an, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. And we made the night as a covering, and we made the day as a livelihood, in Surah An-Naba. Likewise, there was a report with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, لا سهرة بعد العشاء إلا لمصل أو مسافر, that there is no staying up after Isha except if you are praying or if you are traveling. So part of discipline is to respect the night for what is for. It takes actually discipline to sleep at the time you know you should be sleeping. And discipline collapses if your sleep is a mess. Most people say, I sleep 7-8 hours, but I still wake up tired. Why is that? The reason is because they sleep at times that are not good for sleeping. And you will see this if you sleep after Isha straight away and you sleep 7-8 hours, not even. If you sleep 4 hours, you will feel so refreshed. But if you sleep 7-8 hours after a full night of staying up, even if you sleep 7-8 hours, you are going to feel absolutely like a mess. So tired, so sluggish. So the night is being made for sleep. Now we want to understand sleep as well, because sleep is not just about the hours that you're in bed. It's about the sleep cycles. Now, if you want to get a little bit technical, when you sleep, experts have said that each cycle is 90 minutes. And you usually need about 4 to 6 cycles, full cycles, completed full cycles in a space of 24 hours for you to be able to use your brain. So if you wake up in the middle of a cycle, you wake up sluggish, even if you slept 8 hours, and that cycle is now dismissed. So let me give you an example. If you go to sleep at 9 p.m. and a cycle is 1 hour and a half, at 10:30, you would have completed a cycle. That given that you have fallen asleep at 9 p.m. So give yourself a buffer time of 15 minutes, which is the time that it will take you to fall asleep. Tamam. Now you fall asleep at 9 p.m. Now at 10:30, you would have completed a full sleep cycle, given that you haven't waken up within that cycle, which is from 9 to 10:30. That is as well given that you haven't gone from deep sleep to light sleep. Maybe you haven't gotten up, but somebody in your house banged a door, or somebody that sleeps in the same room as you gotten up, and you was deep sleeping in what they call the REM sleep or deep sleep, And that sound now didn't wake you up, but it brought you back to light sleep. And for you to complete a full cycle, you need to go from light sleep to deep sleep to REM sleep. And all of that takes 1 hour and a half. If at any moment as you are sleeping, you go from deep sleep or REM sleep back to light sleep, that cycle doesn't count, or it will count as a lower efficiency. It's not going to be as efficient as if you actually slept the whole cycle. This is very important to understand because it's going to bring me to the points that I want to mention right now. So this is why it's important that you aim for blocks of, when you go to sleep, you aim for blocks of 1 hour and a half, 3 hours, 4 hours and a half, 6 hours, 7 hours and a half. Don't just sleep random. I'm going to sleep now and I'm going to wake up at this time. Because even if you sleep, for example, 9 p.m. and I'm going to wake up in 3 hours, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 2 cycles, right? If you sleep the 2 cycles, you're going to be refreshed. But if you wake up at 11:30, at the end of the second cycle, you are going to feel sluggish and you might feel worse than when you went to sleep. However, if you aim for a full cycle and instead you wake up at 10:30 at the end of the first cycle, now you wake up refreshed, even if you haven't slept until 11:30. Why? Because you have completed a full cycle and you have gotten up at the end of that cycle. So if you wake up in the middle of a cycle, you wake up sluggish. That's when people, you see, when people gets up in the middle of their sleep and you tell them something and they telling you something random because they still they just got up from deep sleep. So they saying random stuff. Did you go to Mexico? It's like, what are you talking about? It's because he was in deep sleep. But if you wake up refreshed, it's because you have slept until the end of a cycle. This is super important. This is a cheat code to your energy and productivity the next day. So what you want to do is ideally sleep as soon as Isha is finished. Keep your room dark, black out curtains, which will allow you to stay asleep. Because as we said, it's not important to just be sleeping, but to stay asleep. And so now if you don't have blackout curtains, if you in the middle of the night and you turn around and you are in light sleep and you see a light, it might wake you up or it might bring you from deep sleep to light sleep. So blackout room allows you to stay asleep. Likewise, use white noise if needed to block random sounds in your house or block random moments when your significant other wakes up to go to the toilet or whatever it might be. Now, white noise, you can buy, I have multiple white noise machines around my house. I have a place where I take naps. I have a place where I sleep. And in all of these places, there is a eye mask and there is a white noise machine. Eye mask because there's no blackout curtain, so I just put an eye mask and it works as if it's all blacked out. And the white noise machine allows me to not hear anything that's happening, behind this white noise. So it allows me to stay asleep. Likewise, in an iPhone right now, actually they have this. They have a white noise machine in an iPhone, and it's quite loud and it works the same. And it sounds like this. So this is white noise, and it's basically just noise, and it allows you to not hear anything that can cause you to go from deep sleep to light sleep, or that can cause you to go from light sleep to waking up, and now you messed up that cycle. So now you lost and dismissed that cycle. Now you have to start a new cycle, and it causes you to sleep for 8 hours. You was in bed for 8 hours, but you wake up tired. Why? It's because throughout the night you keep on waking up. Another thing that you can do is track your sleep. If you track your sleep with something like a WAP, this is a brand, and it's basically, as you can see here, it has a light. It has a light in here, and it basically, I don't know the technicalities of it, but it tracks your day-to-day activity, it tracks your calories, but more importantly, it tracks your sleep. And it knows based on your pulse rate and your pulse rate as well, it knows if you're asleep or if you're not asleep. And it knows when you are sleeping deep based on your heart rate as well. And it knows when you're not sleeping deep. So it tells you and advises you, and you can see it yourself. What have you done yesterday that messed up your sleep? Maybe yesterday I went to sleep later, and now my recovery rate that you can see on your mobile app is low. Or maybe yesterday I ate before I went to sleep and my recovery is worse. So you can see things that you do on a day-to-day basis that causes you or your recovery to be better or worse. So you can actually adapt that as a day-to-day habit. So the point of this is to see and track your day-to-day, but then it's obviously important that you try and have a daily routine that is always the same thing. This brings me as well to avoiding food, water, liquids, and solids 3 hours before going to sleep. Because if your stomach is digesting, your body is not calm. And it might cause you to need to go to the toilet. It might cause you to have to get up. And if you get up again, you're going to mess up your sleep cycles. And you're not going to be able to sleep deep if your stomach is digesting. Now with this, you will taste the difference. You will pray Fajr, and instead of feeling dead, you will feel like it's a new world. These alone can transform your ability to keep a routine. Now the next point is moving your body and eating with actual taqwa, with actual intent, and not eating anything that you see, anything that is delicious, but rather eating for nutrition rather than taste. Now, first of all, exercise is a key part of discipline. When your body is tired in a healthy way, your sleep is deeper, your mind is sharper as well, and your nafs is calmer. You have probably had those days where you came perhaps from walking 30 to 50,000 steps, maybe from traveling, maybe, you're so tired, your body is so tired, and you came home and collapsed into bed and slept like a baby. That's called deep sleep. You don't remember how you fell asleep. You don't know what happened. You just fell asleep and you got up with your face all messed up. But that sleep was the best sleep that you had in long years. So you want a lighter version of that every single day. So when you have a lighter version of that every day you sleep good. To be honest, it could be as simple as swimming. It could be as walking every day 10,000 steps. All of that will contribute into having a better sleep. Now, when it comes to your diet, your stomach is not just your stomach. It affects your brain and your mood on a day-to-day basis. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, ما ملأ آدمي وعاء شر من بطن حسب ابن آدم أكلات يقمن صلبه فإن كان لا محالة فثلث لطعامه وثلث لشرابه وثلث لنفسه. He says, no human, no son of Adam fills a vessel worse than his stomach. It is sufficient for the son of Adam to eat a few bites to keep his back straight. But if he must, and if he's going to do so, then a third for his food, a third for his drink, and a third for his breath. So practically avoiding stuffing yourself when you eat is what you want to do. And keep a thuluth, a third in your stomach for liquid, a third for air, and a third for solids. So base your food on simple, clean ingredients. Many people function well with one solid meal and maybe a light shake in a day or a snack earlier. At least that's me personally what I do, and it allows me to stay sharp and my brain sharp throughout the day. When you don't overeat, you sleep better, you think clearer, you feel lighter when you sit to memorize or work. And that is what the Muslim should do, and it's going to help you to stay disciplined. Now, the next point is designing your environment. Now we connect this with what we said earlier about guarding your system. You have to treat your environment like a software engineer. Delete bugs, delete, viruses. Get rid of them. Make it hard to sin and easy to obey Allah with systems. So ask yourself, what are the things that keep breaking my routine? What is the thing that keeps bringing me to my phone and then endless scrolling in the morning? What is the thing that keeps, when I get home, I keep on wasting money by always eating food from food delivery apps? Or what is it that's bringing me to this place that then ends up getting me into riba and mixed gatherings with other people, with the opposite gender, wasting time? You need to go deep into these things. So for example, my phone, if I have my phone in the morning, it causes me to scroll, then I'm just going to get me an alarm. So I'll wake up with an alarm, and then that phone, I'm going to put it in a box that I'm not going to touch it until I finish my work in the morning. And this brings me to this box right here. This box right here is what allows me to stay focused and do blocks of beneficial and focused work, which we're going to talk in a little bit. Now, this box, you set a timer here. So for example, if I set, okay, so now it's open, and then I set, for example, a timer. It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be hours, and then I block it, and now it doesn't open anymore. And when I do this, my phone is blocked in there, and I am able to focus on whatever work I'm doing, whether it's memorizing, whether it's going to the gym, whatever it might be, because the phone is the biggest distraction that you have right now, that most people have. So you don't just try to resist. You have to design around it. Practical moves. Lock your phone in this time box for your deep work hours. Delete social media and food delivery apps from your main phone or your phone as a whole. Move your settings to an account that is hard for you to access, so you don't have money to actually, always emotionally spend and buying food outside when you could literally just cook or eat the food that is in the house. Tell your family, look, please, from X to Y time, I'm going to be on working mode. So please don't disturb unless it's an emergency. For example, you have to design your surrounding for it. The focus is already inside of you. It's already there. You just need to remove what keeps interrupting it, which is the distractions. Now, this brings me to the point of deep work and having blocks of time to be focused and working on a focus task so you can complete that task. Now, your daily discipline engine will be these deep work times. Deep work is a block of interrupted focus time where you work on something that really matters. For example, memorizing the Qur'an. For example, preparing a class, building your business. Experts say in general that it takes a person around 25 minutes just to reach full focus. So if someone talks to you, your phone buzzes, you check WhatsApp, you drop back down and have to climb all over again those 25 minutes and get back to focus mode and flow state. So for deep work, you choose a 2-4 hour block, remove your phone, lock the box in another room, whatever needs to happen. Tell your family, prepare your materials the night before, whatever it might be, and just get to work. Sometimes you might even need to go somewhere else. Might go to the library, so you don't get distracted by your children in the house or whatever it might be. But you need to design for it. Don't try and fight it. You're not gonna be able to fight your environment and the distractions. You just need to get rid of them as a whole. So during that time, you don't do no multitasking, no tap hopping, just one mission. You want to accomplish this task. You will be shocked how much you can achieve in a few months if you protect one deep work block every day to accomplish those things that you said that you need to be doing every day to accomplish your yearly goal. And most people, the problem is that they don't know what to do. They know what to do. They just cannot stay focused. And focus is going to be the main thing that you will need to accomplish your goals. Now, the last point that I want to talk about is downtime and sustainability and sustainable intensity. And this is a warning, because when you get excited, You will want to do 5 pages of the Qur'an instead of half. You will want to work 12 hours instead of 4. And you can do that once in a while, but if you keep doing it, you will burn out. So a rule should be that you live by is don't miss one day, it breaks momentum. And don't miss 2 days in a row because it starts building a pattern that is hard to break. So keep your daily target small and realistic and just keep doing that over and over and over and over. Allow yourself planned rest as well. So, time with your family, walks, halal recreation, whatever it might be. Let your brain breathe as well from these, deep work times. You need to keep it realistic. When you feel your body and mind are tired, take a lighter day, but don't disappear. Remember the hadith again that we said earlier, Habbul A'mali ilallahi adwamuha wa in qal. The goal is not to be intense, but to actually continue. So it's consistency for 10 years, not just being intense for 10 days and then burning out and not doing it again. And then remember to keep in mind your life mission as well. And this is going to be the last point. You need something physical that keeps all of these in front of your eyes, in front of your, in top of mind. So I personally like to have a board where I can see my life mission, my 3 yearly goals, or 1 or 2, whatever it might be for that particular year, my affirmations, which is statements that help me get through the task. For example, I sleep every day after Isha. I just continue to repeat that until my brain feels that this is what we need to be doing, because self-talk is powerful just as negative self-talk is powerful. If you keep saying, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, you will end up not being able to do it. So affirmations work in the opposite way, in the negative way. So in the top, you want to have your life mission at the top, what you want to achieve for Allah in a lifetime, whether it's Qur'an, Arabic, helping students, building something that serves the ummah, whatever it might be. Below is the 1 to 3 yearly main goals. Then your affirmations, short sentences that you read every day, that describe who you are becoming. I sleep straight after Isha. I revise Qur'an every single morning. I don't randomly scroll on social media, whatever it might be. And maybe you're not like that yet, but you read it every day. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish in between joke and serious. If you keep telling yourself, I am someone who revises Qur'an every morning, and then you force yourself to act on it, slowly your identity changes. You become that person. So putting all of this together, so the implementation of discipline works, it should be turn your goals into worship. So every major goal is for Allah Azza wa Jal. Then write a life mission that you read every day, every morning, every night. Choose 1 to 3 yearly goals, then break them into monthly, weekly, and simple daily actions. Then plan tomorrow, tonight, so you don't wake up and waste time. Protect your sleep, your exercise, and your diet, so you have full efficiency. Design your environment so sins and distractions are far and obedience of Allah is easy. Then guard 1 deep work block every single day where you do that focused task that will allow you to achieve your yearly goals. Then respect downtime so you don't burn out, and use a life board and affirmations to keep your mission alive in your mind and in your heart. If you connect this system with what we mentioned earlier in the chapter, protecting your dopamine, strengthening your Iman, and seeking knowledge through Arabic, then by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal, discipline stops being motivational buzzword and it becomes your default lifestyle. Now, if you're wondering how to implement this and how to actually set this life board, life mission, etc., if you're watching this before the 27th of December 2025, know that on the 27th, we are going to be live in the live reset event. I'm going to work with you guys through this workbook, the complete life planning workbook, and we are going to set all of these together so you don't go into the next year wasting time. I hope you have benefited. I would love to see what you have thought, the thing that you taken the most beneficial from this video in the comments. Please let me know in the comments. I will read all of them. وجزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.